Welcome to Unscripted Coding. Today we're obviously going to talk a little bit about Shogun, that's why it's on your screen right there, but what we're going to do is leverage OpenAI's text-to-speech to build an audiobook with AI. So this is Unscripted Coding. We are building a project, or rather we're walking through one today and modifying it. What is the motivation here? Well, Shogun is this new series. You can watch it on Hulu or Disney Plus, depending on where you are. And if you haven't seen it, it's just a couple episodes in, but it's been amazing so far. And it's great because it comes from great source material. Shogun was originally a novel by James Clavell, and it's actually one of my favorite books of all time. However, the challenge is it is a massive, massive tome. It is roughly the size of the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, all in one book, arguably. So, you know, it takes a long time to read. And as I'm watching through Shogun right now, I get excited. I'm excited about all the developments, but I'm also, just like anyone who's read the book and watched the series, thinking, did they skip a scene? Did I remember that incorrectly? Did they modify this dialogue? Why did they do that? And it's much easier if it was a nice short book, but Shogun being the massive long text that it is, it makes it very difficult for me to just open the book and find the right part and read it all over again. So I wanted a quick memory refresher because it's been a number of years since I've read the book, and we are, of course, in the age of AI, so naturally what I did was I put it into an AI chatbot and said, hey, please summarize this for me. If you're using ChatGPT or GPT-4, you're going to hit a barrier pretty fast, and that is context token limits. You're going to be able to put, let's say, 25,000 words or so into the chat, and then AI starts forgetting things and doesn't realize what's happening. It just doesn't have that long of a memory. Luckily, you have other models available. Claude and now Gemini is absolutely the king here. Gemini has 1 million token context length. It's going to go up to 10 million soon, according to rumors. That means you can throw the whole book at it and it is just fine, and it will spit out a summary. So I'm skipping all of this because I'm sure you know how to do that. Go on a chatbot, get your ebook file, throw it in there and say, please summarize this for me. You could put certain things in there. Please go scene by scene, focus on the important moments, blah, 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 and spit out a copy, and this is what I have here. It's a good summary. It really is, at 12 pages. So Gemini 1.5 did a really good job of summarizing this. Again, easily accomplished. I actually didn't do this in one shot, to be perfectly transparent. I split the book into two just to give it a bit more room, and ran it through. Quite simple. Summarize the first half, summarize the second half, please join these two together, and you have a very cohesive book. Now, I also put in a few of these formatting touches, including just a few of my favorite quotes in the book to punctuate the summary. Anyways, now that I have it available, I wanted to give access to a few of my friends. Now, some of them would never read even a page of a book, so I thought, let's put this into audiobooks. This is something that I have been obsessed about. So if you look at previous videos here on the channel, you're going to find that we've played around with Edge, we've played around with the Google Pixel, lots of free solutions. But if I just demonstrate this very quickly here with Microsoft Edge browser.
The audio API provides a speech endpoint based on our TTS, text-to-speech, model. It comes with 6 built-in voices and can be used to Narrate a written blog.
Alright, I'm not going to put you guys through any more of that. Honestly, it's acceptable if you run through blog posts, especially if you speed it up. It is free. It sounds a lot better than the text-to-speech of old, 5-10 years ago, where it's super robotic. But this one doesn't have a lot of emotion in it, doesn't have a lot of personality, and it obviously doesn't sound like a human. On the other hand, if we talk about OpenAI's text-to-speech, it starts sounding a lot better. Now, I'm not going to pretend it sounds like a human being, but let's pick a random one here.
In the heart of the city, there is a large park where people go to relax and enjoy nature. The park has a beautiful pond with ducks and swans.
I think we can agree that this was much, much better than the Edge one. And we could go through more and more examples. There's a couple of different pieces, but the AI makes it so that it's not just purely reading the text. It is picking up on what the text means, what the context is, so it has some emotion drawn into it. It's smarter about the spacing of silence. It's smarter about stressing certain words over others. It doesn't have that weird robotic lack of awareness, right? It just flows a bit easier than a computer normally would. And so OpenAI, nice simple API, you can connect to it through Python, send text through it, and you are charged per character. It's certainly a lot more than free, but it's not that expensive. You have $15 for 1 million characters. I'm talking about the standard model here. And that's about 2 shorter novels. So $7.50 US a book is not terrible, but you wouldn't be using this to read blog posts and Reddit threads. You'd be talking about one-off readings of your favorite books, of certain things you've prepared, or your app, sections of your app. You wouldn't be doing this for any random piece of article. It just costs too much. I should also mention you have another option, which is Elevenlabs, which hands down is the market leader here. But they are about 2 or 3 times more expensive than OpenAI. But the real problem I have is they're really desperately trying to push you into subscription models and trying to wring you for as many dollars as you can. I just don't need that. So we're going with OpenAI text-to-speech here. And I was thinking of building this out. It's a couple of lines, very simple Python, and that's still a viable solution. Definitely makes sense to do. But as I was looking, I realized there are some problems here. You can see in my little summary here, I have headers. We have the title of the book, the title of the sections within the book. I have a quote here. I want to separate this with a bit of a pause, a dramatic pause, something to let you rest for a moment, because you are getting a lot of dense plot line in very short time. So, what happens is I started looking, and online you have people saying that the AI is smart but dumb at the same time. It recognizes some of these gaps. It will have a bit of a pause, but it won't have the right pause all the time. And so it won't be as easy as throwing that entire text in and getting the audio out. And so I found this really interesting thread. Number one, this person wanted to put pauses for meditation time. Really interesting. I would never think about it, but OpenAI, it makes sense, would never generate 2 minutes of silence for you. It's not part of the model. It's not part of what is normal. So he found a way just to put 1 minute of silence. So you can see he has text 1, text 2, and in between he is just adding 1 minute of silence. So he has a generated audio, 1 minute of silence, another piece of audio, another minute of silence. It's certainly one way of doing it. It basically would have been the same way I would have done it. I would have just it separated the text based on the new lines, and if there's double or triple new lines, I would put in a period of silence. Now, you can build this all on your own. You certainly can, but you should Google some of these things beforehand. This is a tool that I want to use. It's not anything that I need to build and sell or incorporate to some sort of corporate code base. None of that. So I did Google, and you find the most amazing things on GitHub. Somebody's already done it. OpenAI audiobook generator. MIT license, so you can use it for whatever, but the Morpheus 407 created this really nice interface to work with. You enter your OpenAI API key. Yeah, I know it's visible, but this is going to be dead the moment this video hits the web. So go ahead, try, knock yourselves out. But you can paste your text, you can upload an EPUB file, choose your voice, and then generate the audiobook. So I have my key here. I put just the first section here. Let's save a couple pennies, and we can generate the audiobook.
Only by living at the edge of death can you understand the indescribable joy of life. Shogun by James Clavell, the prologue. The year is 1600. A storm-battered ship.
I think you heard that. Shogun by James Clavell, the prologue. No spacing there. It did recognize the quote and then the title. It was a decent amount of space. I would wait a little bit longer, but it's okay. But the period between these two just wasn't great. It jumped straight into this. It was also okay between the prologue, the year 1600. That was acceptable as well. But I want a nice, simple, I could throw future summaries in here and generate text. So, what I did was actually looked into the Morpheus's code base to see what I can do. And if you look at his main.js file, you'll see, lots of supporting functions, but really, the big one here is generate audiobook. He splits a text into segments of 4,000 words, I want to say. Really important because OpenAI doesn't, their text-to-speech API only accepts chunks of 4,000 tokens, I think. 4,000 something, maybe 4,000 words. And the intent is that you're streaming the response. So if you take a look, you have like stream to file. It really is intending you to send one sentence, two sentences at a time rather than a big chunk of book. So it is important to split the text up because OpenAI doesn't support this giant, massive, long book for you to summarize, to create audio out of. He creates audio blobs into an array, so you get the first chunk, then another chunk, then another chunk, and at the end he joins them all together. But really what you'll find is that he then sends each separate chunk to a call to OpenAI and passes it through. Now the splits into segments is pretty good. He is creating separate chunks and he is trying to determine sentences. He's not looking at, splitting in individual words or even worse, just at 4,000 characters mid-word, cut it off. And it creates a much smoother transition, especially since the API is looking at context to try and create the right audio. This is where I think we can implement what I was talking about before, that I would be searching for new lines. We could add a bit of logic into the split text to search for the right new lines, split it up, and once we get new lines, we can edit this call to OpenAI, or rather the process queue, to then add empty silence, 1 second of silence if there's 1 new line, 2 seconds of silence if there's 3, blah, blah, blah. And then otherwise, if there's text in there, then we'll do a call to OpenAI to add the audio. And then once you splice that all up, you get the quote, silence, silence, silence. Shogun by James Clavell, silence, silence. The prologue, silence. And then it was the year 1600, blah, 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 blah. We can do that. And so this is exactly what I did, or rather, since it is AI world now, I had Claude do this. So in case you weren't well aware, you can use ChatGPT-4 as ChatGPT-4 to generate code. It does really, really well, but the latest model from Anthropic, which is Claude 3 Opus, their expensive model, is apparently superior to ChatGPT-4 in programming. And so this was a great example. And here you can see my instruction is quite detailed. I give it the context. I'm using OpenAI's TTS API to generate an audio, but I also gave it pretty clear directions. I had a feeling that it's in the generate audiobooks and split text into segment sections that we can build this out. And I explained exactly the same thing I talked about now, gave it the Morpheus's code, and it suggested great working code right off the bat. I made some tweaks because I found the timing wasn't quite right. Originally, I was just searching for any new lines, but now I wanted to see multiple new lines before I add that break. And you can see that we can continue this conversation over and over to actually hone in and polish a code. So, this is what I'm going to share in VS Code. I have made those changes with Claude's help to split based on new line and also by end of sentences. So you can see it's splitting by sentence, but if there's a new line, it's also pushing another segment that's a blank one. When you encounter a blank segment or one that has just new lines, it's going to create this silent duration of 0.5 seconds. Now, if you have multiple new lines, it's going to find how many of those new lines there are and then multiply it by half a second. Then, of course, all of it gets amalgamated together. The other piece I very quickly changed is that I wanted different models. I didn't need AI for this, luckily, but the default one only allowed you to have standard. Once in a while, I might want to generate some HD audio. What I have here is the final version here. Once again, here's my text and key, and I can select different people to different voices and different models. So I'm just going to generate this very quickly. I don't think we need to go this long. Let's save just a couple pennies here. Generate the audiobook. So we have one, and I also wanted to show you guys HD. Now I notice I didn't, it only changes if I change this block, so I should be putting some sort of tracker on this. As soon as this changes, it should be recalculating. But we have an HD one. I'm going to click Generate Audiobook as well, just to give you a bit of a sense, because the difference is really quite minor here. So with Alloy's voice, or Aloy's voice.
Book 3. Blackthorn, now a high-ranking Hatamoto under Toranaga's protection, finds himself in the village of Anjiro, tasked with training Yabu's samurai in the use of muskets and European warfare tactics.
Okay, That was the standard definition. Now listen to the high definition.
Book 3. Blackthorn, now a high-ranking Hatamoto under Toranaga's protection, finds himself in the village of Anjiro, tasked with training Yabu samurai in the use of muskets and European warfare tactics.
You can see it's just a little bit louder, a little bit clearer. It's a very subtle, very minor. I think you can use a standard one just fine. But what I have found a little bit useful in the HD ones is that Aloy's pronunciation of Hatamoto has stronger T's in the HD version. And I have found just a couple tests that the Japanese names and terminology just is slightly better in the HD one. Very rare that you need to do this, but in this case I think it might be worthwhile to go a little more expensive to generate that audio that's crisper and clearer. The other thing that I failed to mention in text-to-speech is I think that OpenAI has pronounced these Japanese terminology and names quite well. I mean, it's certainly not perfect, but let's really quickly try read aloud. Oh, I guess I can't. It just perennial struggles when I use my phone is different terminology. If I have names from China, Mesopotamia, from Mexico, they just don't pronounce it quite right in a lot of these text-to-speech. OpenAI, at least for these ones, does quite well. All right, one final test. I want to see the timing when we put in what we originally had here. So I'm going to go back to standard. I think it was Onyx voice.
Only by living at the edge of death can you understand the indescribable joy of life. Shogun by James Clavell. The prologue. The year is 1600. A storm-battered ship, the Erasmus, limps across the vast Pacific Ocean, the sole survivor of a Dutch expedition.
There we go. I think we have a pretty good set of silence in between. It's clearly looking at the new lines now, and all in all, that's what I wanted. And now I can quite safely copy this whole thing, paste in here, and hopefully generate a pretty good audiobook by the end of it, and share it along. So, I hope you found that helpful. It's not a project from scratch, but it's really important, if you want to save time and maximize what you can do, to go Google for other solutions, anticipate some of the challenges you might have, Google for solutions, and to be able to make sense of other people's code. Now, this guy, the Morpheus 407, did a great job. It was very logical, his code was very readable. It's not always true. Sometimes some of these projects are impossible to decipher, but it's always worth very quickly looking at MIT licensed or other very permissible licensed projects, making them your own just to build the tools available. One final plug: if you haven't seen the series, if you haven't read the books, they are just great. They are absolutely amazing. And so I hope you enjoyed this and have some time to either code or to watch or to read the book and show. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.